Today I'm playing in my practice sketch pad with a pattern by Suzanne McNeil called Lightbulb. One of our members over at lineweaving.com asked for some assistance and tips on how to draw this pattern. So here in my practice sheet I'm going to draw out a pencil grid just to kind of get the idea of what this pattern feels like when I'm drawing it, and then later I can draw it without the grid. But for practice I think I'm going to put a grid in here. And notice the spaces in my grid are a little bit longer than they are wide. That's because I don't think these little light bulbs actually are square. They seem to be oblong to me. So the first part of Suzanne's pattern is to draw a circle at the top of what will eventually look kind of like a light bulb shape. And then her worksheet indicates that we draw like a fat teardrop to represent the light bulb. And here's where the challenge comes in. When I'm working with that shape on the left and on the right side at the same time, I've been having some challenges with getting my kinetic memory to do them evenly across a row. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little dot mark where I want each of my light bulbs to meet, like Suzanne shows in her pattern. And then I'm going to draw just the line on the right side first over and over again to get my hand-eye coordination going. The dot represents where the widest part of my light bulb is going to be, or the widest part of my curved line here on the right hand side. And the more I make this line, the smoother the line gets. My hand is loosening up and my lines are not quite as stiff. I'm not holding my pen quite as tight in my hand, and that's helping me get a smoother curve. And did you notice that my guide dots are not at the halfway point? They're at a 3/4 spot down the grid space. Here again I'm going to do the right side and then switch over and do the left side, and by doing it that way I could just draw a smoother light bulb shape here. Next, Suzanne's pattern calls for some swirls on just one side of our light bulb. So let's do that next. She has a whole lot of swirls. I'm just going to put a couple in here. I think I've got a feel for what this is like now. So I'm going to try it without using a penciled grid this time. I am going to picture this grid in my mind though as I work across the page to put in some of these circles at the top, and then I'm going to move down a little bit just as I did when I used a grid and put another row of circles for my next row of light bulbs. And then just like I did before in the grid, I'm going to go ahead and give myself some guide dots about 3/4 of the way down and between each of these circles. So it would be like about here, I think. Remember this spot I did over here in the grid? That's what I'm duplicating over here in this invisible grid, if you will. I have it pictured in my mind. Okay, and now I'm going to do my lines just like I did when I had the grid, and let's see if we can come up with the pattern that Suzanne gave us. Okay, now this is just looking like a mammo chart to me. Maybe we better do the other side. There we go. Now we're looking kind of like light bulbs a little bit. So the lines are not perfect, but they're certainly much better than they would be if I tried to draw the light bulb all in one swoop. Looking from right to left works better. Let's see what it looks like if I try to do it all at one time. Yeah, probably not quite as good. I still need to stick with a left and right line, I think, in order to do it for myself, but we can put these little swirls in here. Okay, so I'm going to play some more, loosen up my hands some more so that I can try to get a little better grip on this pattern. Adding some filler patterns is always fun, and you know I have to do stripes. I mean, I think that's getting to be a part of my signature look. I do stripes on everything. Ah, they're everywhere, they're everywhere. Okay, let's do some hash marks too. Gotta go there and see what it looks like. I cheated a little bit. Off camera, I did some darkening on that line on the right side and made each of the little bulbs darker too. Let's do some filler work over here. I think on Suzanne's worksheet, she showed us a darkening inside the shape between each of those light bulbs. So I'm going to do that too, but instead of making it solid black, I'm going to do a little grid here. It'll kind of give me an idea of what it would look like without using quite so much ink on my practice pad. So we'll just fill this in a bit. This is a cute pattern Suzanne came up with. I like it. I'm enjoying it. Okay, so I've done some of this. Let's get out the graphite and play with some shading and some shadowing. So I think I'll lay down a little bit of color on just the right side of each of these down here. And that way they'll look like they kind of pop. And that grid will look more like it's in the background and the light bulb. And I say that with tongue in cheek because I don't think these look too much like light bulbs anymore. They look like seed pods, I think, now. But we'll add some shading and shadowing in here to give it a little bit of a different look, playing around. Okay, so I did some more playing, and what you see is I darkened in one of those stripes at the top. I did some shadowing behind and added a little line on the left side of my hash marks. Here you saw where I did the grid. I just softened this a little bit with a blending stump. Then I left the ones here in the middle just plain, and I added these little stripes here. I think I'm going to play with these stripes more. Oh yeah, I also erased my grid lines. So let's fill in these stripes and see what we get. This almost looks like, I don't know, it's got a whimsical feel to it. So we'll do this, and then let's play with some highlights. I haven't done highlights yet, so I think on this last one over here, I will just do a little shading on the left and the right side, leaving a white space in the middle to give it a little bit of a highlight, and it'll give it some dimension. Play, play, play. I love my playtime with my patterns. Gives me lots of ideas for when I want to use them in a piece of artwork. Okay, so what if I wanted to do some highlights using just my pen? I could simply do a very graphic looking highlight. Well, with this, I think my playtime has come to an end. I hope while watching me draw it, I've given you some ideas of ways that you could expand on drawing this pattern too. Are you looking for some tips on how to draw a particular pattern? Or maybe you have some tips to offer. Hey, come on over to lineweaving.com/forums, join the group. It's free, so just kick back and relax while we do some great patterning. See you there. Bye.